Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Meggan Watterson. I am a feminist theologian, and I am interviewing my love dove, Kyle Gray. I am the author of Mary Magdalene Revealed, and most recently, the Mary Magdalene Oracle. And today we are going to be talking about the gorgeous, the Divine Masters Oracle, which is Kyle's most recent oracle. Hello, Kyle.
Hello. I'm so excited that we're doing this. I'm glad that you've got your cards with you as well.
Yes. So I have been using them for the past several nights, only at night. And before we get into content, I want to ask you a question about what particular spiritual practice, if there is one, what spiritual practice did you use, or did it come to you as you were going to go write and create this oracle? Was there a particular spiritual practice for this oracle?
This oracle, because it's so funny, because you think about when you're creating something. I signed a contract to create this like a number of years back, and then it was like a little bit down the line. But at this particular time when this one showed up, I was doing this Kundalini meditation, which is called meditation to clear past karmas. And when I was actually doing this oracle, and when I was putting it together, I was coming to the completion of 1,000 days practice of clearing karma. And so it felt like it was really aligned to that. It was like at the end of this practice, the whole idea is if you do the meditation for 40 days, you change a habit. If you do it for a year, you get to know it in a new way. And then if you complete 1,000 days practice, the idea is you master what it represents. And it felt really, aligned to get to 1,000 days, which is all about mastery, when I'm creating this Divine Masters Oracle. And there was, and I think that's why this one feels super special, because it's the first oracle that I've created that we've included a Sikh guru in Guru Ram Das. And I had been meditating on this guru for 1,000 days, and then also getting to include him, the fourth guru of the Sikhs, in the oracle. So that felt really connected.
I asked that because I've found in my own work that each particular project calls upon me in a very particular way. And that as the writer, there are certain things that we listen to that allows us then to align to that particular work in a way that is different from any of our other creations before. So I felt like that there's something in this, for me, words are like tiny little boats, and they carry the energy of what's within us to the person who's receiving it, to the reader. So as I was reading and using this oracle, I could really feel something unique and particular that's being shared through this work. And that's why I asked, because I was very curious what spiritual practice you were utilizing to create this. It's very present in this oracle. So I was very curious. And I'm currently doing Fists of Rage. So
Fists of Anger. Yeah, such an intense meditation.
I'm horrible at Kriya's, but there's at different points in my life, for different projects, I know it. I know that it's something that I have to do in order to make certain that there's the clarity, or there's the right energy that's in alignment with the work that I'm creating. So I very much feel that in this work, and I love it. What I want to do next is to read the inside cover. Forgive me.
Yeah, get the glasses on.
Divine Masters, keepers of ancient wisdom, I call on you now. Thank you for revealing to me what I need to know. I am willing to listen, and so it is. Yeah. So there's a couple messages in both of these that I feel they clear up this and clarify this misperception that angels or divine masters are going to appear to us or come to us outside of us, which is, so much art, so much of what we imagine when we read scripture, for example, like an angel appears and there's wings and trumpets and you're saying, the voice of my inner teacher, or you're saying that this is what exists inside of me. It's my inner teacher, and you're saying divine master within. So that's the first really powerful teaching, is that these divine masters, the energy of them, the wisdom of them is coming from within us.
Right.
I think powerful.
I think you're onto something really important here, because I know we've known each other for quite a long time now. When I first started connecting to angels and masters and saints and all these different things, my experience of spirituality was very external. I kind of came from this psychic space of seeing physical beings in the room. And it was about, it's probably a little bit after we became friends. I remember one day I just stopped seeing angels. I just stopped having the clairvoyance that I'd had my entire life, something that I became so attached to. And I remember doing this meditation one day, and I'm like, angels, guides, why can't I see you anymore? And they said, our vision is nothing but an illusion. We are within you. And I was, so mesmerized. And what I learned, is that our vision actually doesn't go with us when we leave the body. The only thing that does go with us is our kind of spiritual heart, that part of us that feels. And so the experience of having a sentient connection with our angels, with our guides, with the masters, is actually much more important. And, I remember a few years ago, I was in Germany at the Angel Congress, and I heard someone say, clairvoyance is the most ascended state. And I was like, oh no, it's not. It really is not the most ascended state, because it's not going with us. The most important thing is if we can feel our guidance, if we can connect to it on an internal level, we're actually skipping an unnecessary step. Clairvoyance is actually a tickle of the ego. It doesn't need to happen. And that's the main thing that the masters have taught me. It doesn't matter what master I felt called to or connected to. And that, there's a lot of different types of beings in this. The main thing that they're always taking us back to is everything that we need is actually within us. Everything that we're searching for is already here. And that's why I keep inviting people to awaken the master within. Of course, there's a part of me, it's like, yeah, I want this oracle deck to do well because it is my career. But the truth of it is there's also a part of me that really knows that we don't really need it. There's something here waiting for us to arrive. And that's what I always do, is that I am willing to remember. Because it's been with us since before we're in this body.
Right. And that an oracle like this is a tool to help us remember that vision is within. So it helps us practice recognizing, because I think so many people miss their angels because they're looking to see their angels with their eyes rather than the eye of the heart. And the masters here are missed or aren't perceived because they're whispering within rather than appearing in some external vision. So I want to direct us to these invocations that are within on the inside of the box, because for me, it sets up the template of where to hold space for this wisdom to arrive, and where practice, as you're using the oracle, where to practice holding space. It's within us, and it's with a vision that has always been our birthright, has always been something all of us are capable of. But what an oracle helps us do is really exercise that muscle, exercise that capacity,
Right.
receive the wisdom from within.
Yeah, what I always say is cards are not magic, they're mirrors, and they're just mirroring back to us what's already within. And that's my favorite thing about them is if you do a reading and you receive a message and it's something you already know, then you know that they are onto something. Because often when we receive a message from the divine, it's something we already know and something we've probably been putting off. And a lot of people say to me, why can you hear your guides and angels and the masters and I can't? And I always say, well, how often are you taking time to listen? And usually the message from their guides or their masters or their angels is usually just a really simple shift in their daily life that they need to make that they've been putting off. And the more you ignore that initial message, and it might be just as simple as, stop feeding into this relationship, or, stop giving in, or quit this job, or go in this direction. If we keep ignoring that for time and time and time again, the angels appear to be further away from us than what is reality. And the only thing that's creating that space between us and the angels is ourselves.
Right, which is that statement, I am willing to listen, is so powerful because that's our responsibility. It's our choice. It's our choice at all times. We can be willing to listen. And then also, I think what is so powerful about this oracle and what it gives us the opportunity to embody is the fact that, okay, here you have compiled this incredible collection of divine masters. And every time we call on them, if we're receiving that message from within us, what happens is this understanding that there is no separation between us. There is no, there's no reality where we are less than and they are greater, or the disparity that so often we practice, and especially in spiritual spaces, can be that the human is less than. Yes, or that the body is somehow less than the soul. And what happens when we practice more and more with an oracle like this, with divine masters, and we're willing to listen and we receive that information from within, we begin to understand that we're eye to eye with all things.
Yeah.
There is a separation. There is no sense of a greater than or a less than. It's a radical being met.
That was one of the things that really shook me when I started to really call on the energy of Christ when I was working on this oracle, because I, was brought up in a pretty Christian family and, went to all the Christian boys clubs growing up, and I always looked at that presence as like a higher and mighty presence. Right. But when I was writing the guidebook, I wrote something along the lines of Jesus will meet you like a sibling, for me, it was like a brother energy. Like, I don't want you to feel like I'm more holy than you. In fact, I want you to witness my holiness because it also exists within you. And and that feels powerful. I feel like that's one of the great teachings of the masters,
Yeah, there's a healing that can happen with worth, because there's in all of my experience and all of my retreats, all of my groups, the deepest wound that I have encountered with people not being able to receive, the love and the truth that can just flow out from within them, the greatest obstacle is that sense of worth. It's just understand how that worth is innate, and
it's true.
It's just a part of what it means to be human, is that we are worthy of such proximity to the divine. So
it's so easy to speak about it, but it's like a lifetime of practice, really.
So I loved pulling cards before bed because I feel like that's a liminal space for me. So, and for those of you who are watching, you may have a very particular time or a particular way. Kyle offers some spreads, for example, that you can. I really just listen. I hold the oracle to my heart, and then I sometimes ask a question, but more often I just say some version of "I'm willing to listen" or "What is it that I need to know in this moment?"
And that's it.
With your oracle, I sensed the number 7, and so I wanted to pull 7 cards, and you happen to have a 7-card spread.
Yes, I do.
So then after I pulled the 7, I was like, and I went to the front and I looked to see that you have an alignment to what each of those cards
card means. Right.
Yeah, which I loved because I had like an original sense of each of them, and then I went in and sort of got another layer to why I may have pulled these cards at different points. And of course I pulled Mary. That's not my fault.
Mary Magdalene, that's amazing, isn't it?
Of course that's going to happen. She was 3rd, and then Lady Nada, who I
call the higher self of Magdalene. You know, it's like the soul expression of the Magdalene energy.
Yes. And I remember her from years ago. You introduced her to me a long time ago.
With the spray, the Orasama spray that we brought to Colorado.
It was a bath. I was meant to put it in the bath, and it was phenomenal. I remember not really being able to speak. It was really so heart opening. But many of these, what I wanted to ask in relation to these cards is that, you know, this is what number oracle? This is the
8, 7th, 8th, a lot. Yeah.
So what I wanted to ask you is what's unique about
unique about this one?
Yes.
I think there's a number of different things. So I wrote a book a few years ago called Divine Masters Ancient Wisdom, and it was because I grew up interested in spiritualism and theosophy and all these kind of Western mystery traditions, you know, very connected to London, Britain, all these things. And I realized that there wasn't really a book about the Ascended Masters kind of giving a bird's eye view of all of the things that happened. Because it did all kind of, like, for example, the Ascended Master movement was responsible for helping Mahatma Gandhi reread the Bhagavad Gita. So, like, people don't realize that this, you know, amazing freedom fighter came back to his own religion through the actual teachings of the Ascended Masters. I find that really fascinating. So he came to London, and he had come across this woman called Helena Blavatsky.
Yes.
Who, she was like one of the original teachers of like the Ascended Master movement, and there was this, you know, all these original scripts that supposedly arrived by teleportation, these messages from these keepers of ancient wisdom, and he had heard about her and ended up managing to have a lunch with her. And at that time he was working, I think, as an attorney in London, or he was in London doing something to do with law, and she started speaking to him about the Bhagavad Gita. And then he started to reread it again, and then obviously went back to India and led it towards freedom. So I find that, you know, like, this movement was such a powerful time, and it kind of helped the spiritualist movement take place, which then led into, you know, the abolishment of the Witchcraft Act in the UK. So there was like, it has a really strong, powerful energy that I really wanted to tune into. So that was one reason why I wrote the book. And then it was actually Michelle Pilley. She said, you know, from Hay House, you should do a deck on this. And gospel honest truth, I had actually done an Ascended Masters deck when back in 2017, and I love it But there were some things that I felt like could have been better. And after doing, a number of years of inner work on anti-racism and diversity, equity, and inclusion, I felt like I could have done things a little bit better and more culturally aligned. And so this time, I wanted to honor some things. For example, many of the Indian saints and devas are drawn with blue skin because a lot of people who are South Asian don't want to be dark-skinned, so they make the gods blue because it seems more unattainable and lighter than their dark skin. And I was like, I want to bring in that darkness and show how beautiful it is, not to speak for anyone, but to say, hey, if you pick up my deck, I want you to see yourself in it so that you can be reminded by your holiness. So things like that, and also just picking masters that didn't really get mentioned anywhere else. For example, I did a card for the Lemurians, which is the cover, and I've always been fascinated by, this idea of a hidden, lost civilization in the middle of the Pacific. So I did that. I wanted everyone to feel like they were included and acknowledged and loved, and could find themselves in the divine, and allow the divine to be reflected in them too. And that's how I created it. And it's also the first deck that I've ever got. I worked with a company who looked at the diversity of the deck and just gave it a once-over, and just, to make sure it was culturally aligned. And I'm really happy how it turned out.
Beautiful. I also was resonating with that, the energy of a perspective that goes out and above. As you know, it's Scorpio season, and I'm a Scorpio again. I'm all Scorpio.
A million times Scorpio.
Right. Never resonated with that energy of the Scorpio, or what traditionally is described as. And actually, Michelle Pilley, I got this ring of the eagle, the golden eagle, at that.
I was with you and the Great Frog in London.
Yes. And I have never resonated with a ring more than this. And then we were at dinner with Michelle, and she said, well, the eagle is the ascended sign of the Scorpio. And I've been wearing it since I started using this oracle. And I think what's so powerful for me is that there is a perspective, right, that the eagle can give us, where we look out above our lives. Like, we look at the systems, we look at the energetic systems that are going on. And I feel like that this 7-card spread that I got really allowed me to have this sense of witnessing it, right? So there's this certain amount of distance so that I can witness it and really look at and listen to what it is most important for me to shift right now. So I deeply appreciate the energy of the ascension.
I think that I was going to say one thing that you touched on already. I think a lot of people who use oracle cards do a few things that stop them from hearing better. And I just want to acknowledge that. A lot of people pick a card, don't like what they see, put it back in the deck and reshuffle. And I just want to talk about some of the practical things. When you get a card, whether it instantly resonates or not, there is a reason for your picking it. And it's so important to just acknowledge whatever it is. You can always pick another card on top of it for extra insight, but trust the first thing you see. And I always say to people, if you put it back in and reshuffle, you're not willing to listen. So you have to put it down and walk away, go for a shower, do a meditation, have a walk, and then come back to it. Because if you're not willing to listen, there's things that could be out of your line of sight that you're missing. And, just by showing up to it and being fully committed to receiving whatever comes up, I think it's really important. I think that's a really, really important thing. And the other thing I was going to say is, when you're reading a spread, people don't realize that the card needs to be changed into the context of that card. So, for example, the 4th card in the 7-card spread is usually an obstacle you need to overcome.
Yeah. I have a question about that. I got open channel, but what do you mean by obstacle I need to overcome?
So, this is a brilliant question. So, the card that represents the obstacle to overcome is it's something you're not doing or not fulfilling that is maybe stopping you from reaching what the next few cards represent. So if you have open channel, it could be you're holding back from letting it rip, holding back from letting it flood through. Your obstacle to overcome is being an open channel and kind of getting beyond the limitations you're placing upon that capacity to go to that ethereal state is probably what it means for you.
I'll become the
the only real issue is when we say that to you, you actually may ascend. I think I remember for everyone listening, Meggan and I went to Glastonbury a few years ago, and she genuinely nearly left her body because the energies were so powerful, and I was trying to feed her all these different types of food to try and get her a steak of all things. I'm like, you need to eat this organic grass-fed steak before you leave your body. I needed to have something in you. So yes.
I think that there's a beautiful teaching in the humility that creates, right? Like when you're saying people walk away because of having this initial aversion or not wanting to know, and that's where everything delicious is. That's the moment when we grow, is when we have a resistance or an aversion, because I had an aversion to this card and then seeing it was the 4th and this was an obstacle, but that's how I know that feeling of is how I know there's a place where I can grow, is stretch and change. And that humility, I think, is our greatest teacher in all of this.
And I think you'll actually, because I know you're a bit of a geek when it comes to like texts and spirituality and all these things, that master, Sanat Kumara means the eternal youth. And there's actually a Japanese legend that he arrived on the earth like 4 million years ago, and there's actually a temple dedicated to this intergalactic being in Kyoto. It's just pretty fascinating because he's not really a Buddhist figure or whatever, but they believe that this kind of eternal youth from Venus came to the earth and brought all this energy. So he's actually, they call him the head of the Venetian Council, which is pretty cool. And of course, the New Age teachings adopted it. Sorry?
I'm going to keep him on my altar. So
yeah.
Here we go.
He has a twin flame called Lady Venus.
Oh, okay.
Wait.
Yeah, that one. There's so much to learn from this. The geek in me was very fulfilled with all the reading that I've been doing. So many of the cards I hadn't encountered before, and so it's been a learning curve and an education.
Oh, you mean the masters within? Like they're new to you?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, that's cool.
I've had my little glasses out at night, and I've been like,
if I can teach something to a Harvard-trained theologian, then, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But do you think we should do a reading for everyone who's listening?
Yes, love. Let's do that.
Do you want to pick a Mary Magdalene oracle card with us as well? I think that'd be a really nice mix.
Yes, let's do that.
And I actually just recorded an unboxing video of your oracle for my YouTube channel, so that should be coming shortly.
Oh, I'm excited for that.
I was saying it's like a treasure chest, and that's what it feels like. You're opening up a treasure chest when you play with it.
That was my intention.
Okay, so I like to just take a couple of deep breaths, and whoever's listening right now, If there's something in your life that you would like support or guidance upon, set an intention to hear what you need to hear. And let's set an intention that we will receive what we need to receive. And we thank the Divine Masters for revealing to us what we need to know. We are willing to listen. And then I'm going to pick a card. Oh, I love this.
Yeah, I love the one I picked too.
Okay, well, I picked this guy. He's called El Moria. And he is one of the original ascended masters. Like from the original teachings, there was 3 masters, and he is one of them. And the idea is El Moria is a pseudonym that was actually given to a living person who was spiritually advanced, but was in a place of power, and he couldn't actually reveal his spiritual gifts and talents. And the idea is that he's this spiritual energy of this guy who basically, when the Brits, for goodness sake, were invading the Kashmir region of, he was the ruler that was able to block them from entering. So he, as a spiritual figure, is this person that can block us from negative energies and things that are standing between us. And so whoever's listening right now, the energy of spiritual force field is surrounding you. A protective light is coming to you, and it's a message that you are safe. So if you are at this point where you're looking to make a next step or go in a new direction, and you've been waiting for the right time to make that move, this card tells you that you are safe, because a power that is greater than you, but also a power that exists within you, is keeping you surrounded in a light that will guide you to goodness. Now, the little thing I'll say to you is El Moria's energy is the protector of this blue flame, this blue energy, which is connected to Mother Mary, Archangel Michael. There's this blue protection. And so I want you all to look out for something that sparks blue, something really powerful blue in your life. And that will be your blue light rather than your green light. You know, if you see the blue light or the blue thing that really in your face, that's your big thumbs up from spirit to make the next move.
I love that. So I pulled the second power. It's one of my favorite cards. Moonjube is the artist, and she created this, and it has so much of the energy of what this power from Mary's gospel. So that it's based on the 7 powers that we each contain within us that Christ revealed to Mary, and that she revealed to all of us through her gospel, which was, of course, buried and excluded from the canon of the Bible in the 4th century, but we still have it because you cannot bury the truth. And so the second power is really about being able to trust what our soul desires. So letting go of the egoic, ideas of what we have for our lives or what we want for ourselves or what we think is equating to success or to, alignment or whatever, and just letting all of those egoic ideals and egoic illusions really of who we are, and allowing ourselves to really trust what it is that our soul desires. And so for each of the cards, there's this statement that is really an affirmation, which is something that Louise Hay taught me. I think you know this story. We were at a dinner, and I was excited and sort of talking to the different people at the table, and Louise is next to me. And at one point, it was almost like all of the air in the room was like sucked out, and she just like slowly turned her head towards me, and I could feel her turning her head, and I and my head towards her too, because it was like one of those moments that just is eternal. Like it's still in present tense. Like as I'm saying this, I'm actually physically experiencing
Still there.
live in present tense. And she turned towards me and she said, everything you say is an affirmation. And I can tell you, I've spoken a lot less ever since that, because the way she said it and how much she believed it, the energy of there was really a transmission that happened in that moment. She said, everything we say is an affirmation. And so every card has an affirmation that's associated with it. And what I do with that affirmation is that I repeat it. If I draw a card, I repeat that affirmation until it feels that it's true for me. Like sometimes we'll say an affirmation and it feels like a reach, or it feels like a lie, or it feels like a stretch. It feels like something that, oh yeah, right, every time you say it. And like for example, I am enough, right? Like some people say it and there's nothing in them that actually feels like.
No, yeah, exactly. It needs to be, yeah.
And so that's how I know if I need an affirmation, because there's this sense of imposter syndrome, or like that is not true for me. And so I repeat it until it's no longer a lie, until my body, which the body never lies, until my body says this is true for me. And so the affirmation that's associated with this card is, I trust what my soul desires. So I'm actually going to take this medicine for myself because I feel like it's in relation to that open channel, and I will trust that open channel is what my soul desires, and I will keep repeating that until it actually feels true to me. That
feels cool. So let's combine these messages. You are safe to trust what your soul desires. That's what we're getting today.
Do you see what soulmates we are? Do you see how perfectly paired?
Amazing. I feel like we should have a talk show.
I love it. This was so much fun.
Thank you for taking the time to do this with me.
Anytime. I love you. I enjoy something every conversation we have. So
thanks everyone. See you soon.